Hey, what's going on? So I want to explain what happened this week here. I want to talk about something called inducement. Okay, so you got to figure out what inducement is. And let me show you what it is. Now, this is last week's high up here, right? So usually what'll happen is price will, let's say the target, first you have to understand what the target is. So first, number one, you got to figure out what the target is. So is the target last week's high or last week's low? Okay, high or low for last week. Okay, that's the first thing you got to do. So let's say we got the target down. So in this situation, it was last week's low. All right, so last week's low is the target. So if you understand how inducement works, if last week's low is, if the target is last week's low, then price is not just going to shoot down there in a straight line. I mean, it did this week, and I'm going to explain this. But a lot of times it's going to do something like this. A lot of times it's going to come all the way up here like it's going to take out last week's high. No, what it's going to do is, if it's going to take out last week's low, what it's going to do is it's going to induce. Then what it's going to do is something like this. Boom. Push down there like it's going to take out last week's low. Bam. Come up here, induce, take out people. Then get people again, and then come up here and do something like this. And then Thursday, Friday, take out last week's low. So if you understand this, you would have been really angry because you would have saw it on the read on the chart. You'd be like, yeah, price definitely taking out last week's low first. I mean, it's a definite, you know. And let's say if you was looking at something I'm about to show you right now, which is extremely valid and strong. Okay, so let's say it don't work like this all the time, but this is just something real simple. Let's say this was last week's candle here. Let's say this was the previous week, and then last week price did this here. You can backtest this on your own as well. It don't matter whether this candle is bullish or bearish, but preferably we want to see the previous candlestick bearish. So this right here is last week. Okay, this is last week's candlestick, and this is the week before that. So previous week. Okay, and then now prices are opening here on Sunday. So this is current week. You know, the candle not even done forming yet. It just started. So something real simple is if the previous candlestick closed below, you see how it closed below the body and the wick of the previous candlestick, preferably we want to see it be bearish, but it could be bullish. It could be bullish or bearish, okay? Preferably we want to see it bearish, but let's say it closed below the previous week, then the drawn liquidity usually would be down here for the following week. So that don't mean it's just going to shoot straight down there. It may come up here, retrace this candlestick about 50%, 25%, 75%, and then come down here and take out last week's low, which is here. Okay. I'm just saying, like, let's say the whole point of me showing this was let's say if this happened last week, if we see that it closed below the previous candle's wick, which is here, the wick and the body, which is here, then usually the draw would be here. You can back test this. You probably see it work 9 out of 10 times or something. It's pretty strong, but you still need more things in your toolkit. So go back to the previous week. Let me erase this. All right, so what I'm saying is if you don't understand inducement, you're really gonna be pissed off because you're gonna go short here thinking you got an early short, like, yeah, I'll go down here to last week's low, baby. Make the money. But then what's gonna happen is you're gonna get induced. It's gonna come up here, fake you out. Okay. And then you're gonna go short again. You're gonna be like, okay, well, they got me, or you're gonna be in drawdown when price comes up here and comes past your short. You're gonna be in drawdown. Either you're gonna have to add money to the account to save it, because you right about the direction, you're just wrong about the position you're in. So you're gonna add money or you're gonna over leverage and you're gonna get stopped out. And when the price keep rising like this, you're going to get stopped out by the broker, or your stop loss is gonna get hit if you had a stop loss on. Okay, or you could add to the money to the account and go short even more, thinking that we're just gonna shoot straight down. Because remember, you like I really know it has to come down here to last week's low. But then again, something like this will happen. You be think you off to the races, last week's low, and you see this happen again. Now remember that the last week's high has not been touched. But if one of the inducement signs is it'll race down there early in the week, like it's gonna just run down in a straight line. We know the markets don't do that. And then they'll come up here and take you out or get you to add money to the account or get stopped out. Okay. And then you go short again thinking it's good, and then it's gonna come back up here again. So this is like the inducement. And then it comes and works its way down, eventually takes out last week's low. So this is how the consistency stuff happened for me. Like I've started figuring it out. Like you have to understand like what's the inducement. So let's go ahead and delete this. You got to figure out if it's going to be inducement or not. That's based on news. Okay, and some few other things. So this week we didn't have any inducement. This week price just rocketed down because it opened up here, and I was like, the way I predicted is the probability of inducement was pretty low this week. But I have to go back and do my research on over the weekend to see because I came up with a system to figure out if it's going to be inducement or it's just going to rocket down. This is a rocket down here because remember, price made a high right here and it just kept going down, not in a straight line, but I'm looking at the chart now. It actually did something just like this. I mean, I thought I drew it correctly. It did something like this, went up, spiked up, and then it just took out last week's low. But so this was no inducement, but I came up with a way, and I'm testing it now to be 100% to see to predict the inducement, because this is powerful if you can do that, because that means that when we go short, we can hold our shorts confidently, knowing that it's not going to come up here and do this and then do this again without even taking out last week's low. It'll come up there real close, like within 8 points, 10, 15 points sometimes, and still rocket down to last week's low. I didn't see it do that multiple times. This is for oil. Obviously, it's for whatever you're trading. But this whole thing was about inducement. You got to look it up because it's doing this during the day. I guess this is the Judas Swing. ICT would call it Judas Swing. Okay. Tomato, tomato, But I never, ICT talked about the Judas. I know it's a simple thing. I just didn't really get it all the way. I don't get the inducement all the way as well, but I have been seeing price. I see that's going to take out last week's low, and then it